What is going on, Redskin fans? Another video coming at you from Redskins Rant. Hail to the Redskins. I'm doing a video going over all of our quarterback scenarios this offseason. I think it was the first time in a long time Washington actually has a lot of options at quarterback when it comes to what they can get, how they can get it, and it won't actually like break our bank or cost us the kitchen sink just to get it. Okay? So the first ones I want to go over are our free agent options. There's really only three that I want to go over. I guess there's a fourth one. I'll go over the fourth one. First one, and the free agent options I'm going to go over. There's not really any I would. The last two I'll go over are the ones I would consider for the right price. But the first two I do not consider this, but a lot of people are talking about. It's Cam Newton. Cam Newton is someone I would stay clear away from him. Cam Newton, to me, is a garbage quarterback. I don't know why people are enamored with him. I had a discussion with someone literally 30 minutes ago, and I had him try to convince me that Cam Newton is a good quarterback. He couldn't do it with statistics. He couldn't do it with literally anything. His turnover ratio, completion percentage, nothing could be used to leverage any kind of argument as to why Cam Newton makes any kind of sense for the Washington football team. He's just not going to be worth it. And if he was like $1 million, maybe I would consider it as a backup. But it's just going to create drama. It's just going to create, kind of like it's not, QB competition. I don't think it's competition. He's not a good quarterback. His average completion percentage for his career is like 59%. So he's not a viable option to me at the quarterback position. And I'm sorry, I actually just realized I have Haskins up. I don't want Haskins up there. I'm just going through my photo gallery of my Redskin photo gallery while I do this, and I gotta cycle through or else it times me out after 10 minutes. So I don't think he's a legit option. I want someone to try to convince me using anything other than the fact that you like Cam Newton. You can't do it. There's nothing statistically that makes sense. There's nothing character-wise that makes sense. He's just not a good quarterback. Okay, he got offered $1 million $1 million this year, bare minimum, and that's what you got out of him. There's a reason why the Patriots sucked this year. Okay, and he's part of that reason. 8 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 6 fumbles. Yeah, I think he had a decent amount of rushing touchdowns, but you need to be a quarterback that can be a quarterback, not a quarterback that gets a lot of rushing touchdowns. Why you get injured a lot. That's why you fumble the ball a lot. That's why all these things. You're not a pocket quarterback. You never will be, and you're just going to put yourself in a position. And I'd hate for Washington to rely on that. One, because he's not consistent at quarterback at all. But two, he can't. His availability is also a question mark for me. So I would love to hear someone give me a legitimate argument as to why Cam Newton makes sense. But in my mind, there's no reason why we should ever consider Cam Newton. The next option, who I really wouldn't consider, is Fitzpatrick. Some people like Fitzpatrick to come in, play 1 year, ball out, air it out all the time. I don't like this at all either. For the opposite of Cam Newton, this guy will sling the football, but he will throw a lot of interceptions. Yeah, you might have a game where he throws 5 touchdowns, but he'll have another game where he'll throw like 6 interceptions. And it's just not worth it. There's a reason why he's bounced around. Now, if we were just holding down the fort for a year while we draft somebody, sure, I would consider that. But it's not going to be a good season with it. It's going to be very highs and lows. He'll do something that'll say ooh and ah 1 week, and he'll have 3 straight weeks of sucking, and then he'll do it again. We'll have a great week, and then he'll suck again. It's going to be consistently like that. Now, the 2 options I would consider, and the one I would consider the most is the first one I'm going to go over right now, is Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater would be one I would consider. I think Teddy Bridgewater is better than his historical stats have stated. Okay? When he was in Minnesota, he never got a chance to play with all the good weapons they had. He got injured twice. He didn't get a chance to play with any of those good players. He played for the Saints last season, and he actually wasn't bad when he played. Oh, excuse me. And it wasn't bad. And I think he's better than what he showcased this year in Carolina. Carolina just didn't have a lot of weapons. They didn't have a running game. So it made it very limited for what Teddy Bridgewater can do. I think Washington right now is in position to try to win now. And I don't think Teddy Bridgewater is enough to get us there. I think we win the division with him again. I don't think that's out of the cards. I think with him, he's a stable quarterback, and I think all we need is stability, and we can win the division. And he provides that. But I don't know about everyone else, but I want to win a Super Bowl. And I think Washington's looking to win a Super Bowl. So if our window, while we have all these defensive linemen on cheap contracts and our team is, on the rise talent-wise before we have to pay all these guys, you want to win now. You got about a 2-year window, 2-3-year window, and you got to get a quarterback in there to do that. I don't think Teddy Bridgewater's enough to get us over the edge. I wouldn't be mad with Teddy because I know we'd be consistently okay, and we might get lucky and luck ourselves into, like, getting to the Super Bowl or something with, like, a high, if we won, like, a lot of games and got to, skip the wild card round or something. I don't know, but I don't see us being good enough with Teddy. And, like I said, it's nothing against him. He's just not that upper tier echelon of quarterbacks that I think could do it. So, and then the last one, this one's like a crazy option, and I don't think it's ever going to come to fruition, but I still hold out hope that in the right system, Josh Rosen could be potentially a decent quarterback. I think he's a free agent now. I don't think he's on any teams. So that he could potentially get on a roster, get behind Taylor Heineke, actually get a chance to learn an offense before he's thrown into the starting lineup, and he could actually develop a little bit. He's yet to have a chance to develop. He's had 3 offensive coordinators since he's been in the league. So it's just not a situation. He's just not been put in a good situation. Now, could it be that he just sucks? Flat out sucks. Not going to ever be better. Not going to ever be good. That is definitely a possibility. I'm not going to even deny that that's a possibility. It's definitely possible. However, and I'm going to switch that real quick. Resets for 10 minutes. However, I just don't see that as I don't know. I still think that it's possible. You never know. The thing is, out there in the football universe, there's so many quarterbacks that could have been the next Tom Brady if they ever got the chance. They weren't in the right offense. They played for a bad coach. They played for a bad franchise, so on and so forth. You just don't know. It's like David Carr is a great example of a quarterback who got drafted by it was a new team, expansion team, and got sacked like 70 times in a season. And you don't know if he could have been better if he'd have been drafted by anyone else other than the Houston Texans. You just don't know that. You really don't. He could have been drafted by anyone else. I mean, he has a Super Bowl ring technically. He was a backup for Eli when they won a Super Bowl. But you don't know how he could have been with anyone else. So, okay, so, and that's the free agent option. So, of those options, I would prefer, I want Teddy Bridgewater. The other 3, I mean, if Rosen's like a backup and we're going with Taylor Heineke for a year to see what we got, sure, why not? You can learn an offense and you might surprise us with a team that has some stability. But the one I would only want to consider in that is Teddy Bridgewater, and that's only if we can't get any of these other options I'm about to go over. Stay far away from Bridgewater or Cam Newton. Stay far away from Ryan Fitzpatrick. Moving on to the next possible scenarios is trade scenarios. There are, I think it's four quarterbacks that Washington could trade for. I'm going to go through each and every one. The first one, I'm going to take a drink real quick. That's why I keep pausing, because my mouth is pretty dry. All right. So the first option, I'm going to give every option and kind of give like what I've heard we have to give up to get him. And then I'll tell you which option I like the most. So one option is, I'm going to start with Matt Stafford. There's a rumor that Matt Stafford is going to be traded, and Washington can get him for Ryan Anderson, which we're probably going to cut anyway. Ryan Anderson, a second-round pick, or third-round pick this year, second-round next year, or a third this year, a third next year, something like that. And that's what Washington's going to trade to get Matt Stafford. Now, Matt Stafford, when I initially thought of this, I thought like Matt Stafford, I kind of like rolled my eyes like, oh man, well, I don't want an old quarterback. He's not that old. He feels like he's been in the league forever, but he's only 32. He'll be 33 when the season starts, and 33 is very young for quarterbacks. Tom Brady's 10 years older than him right now. Okay, now he's not Tom Brady. No one's Tom Brady, and Tom Brady's Tom Brady. But we legit could have him for 5 to 7 years. If he wanted to play till he was 40, as long as we kept him upright, he could do that. And Matt Stafford is a very durable quarterback. He doesn't miss very many games. If you look at his stats, if I wish I was kind of at my computer right now doing this, I would show you that he plays 16 games consistently. Okay? And he's a legitimately good quarterback. He is on a very bad franchise. And when I say very bad, he is on one of the worst franchises there is. There's a reason why the Lions have never won a Super Bowl. What's his name? Megatron Johnson, Calvin Johnson. He retired early because he played for that team. Barry Sanders retired early because he played for that team. It's just a garbage franchise that never gets no one points fingers at them because they're not in a big market. No one cares that they're a garbage franchise, but they are a garbage franchise, and they've had a quarterback who's good, very good, and they consistently are rotating through quarterbacks. They're never keeping good weapons. They're never giving him enough. They do just enough to make the team look competitive. They never do enough. And then when they do good enough, they do better, they fire their coach. They had Jim Schwartz a few years ago. Back-to-back years make the playoffs. What happens after he loses to Dallas in the playoffs? He's fired. Okay, then a couple years later, I think they went through a middle coach in between there. Jim Caldwell. Or it might be, I don't know, Caldwell. I know his last name is Caldwell. I don't know his first name. I think it's Jim Caldwell, but I may be wrong in that. Caldwell went 3 straight years with winning records, 3 years in a row. And what happens? They fire him. And they bring in Matt Patricia, who sucked. He just was horrible. God-awful football coach. They brought in Matt Patricia, thought that he could make the defense better, and made the team completely worse. Made it way worse than what it ever was under Jim Caldwell. So, yeah, I think he's just had a rough go when it comes to the franchise he's on. I think you get him on a good franchise. I think he has to sling the. I think he's called a gunslinger because he slings the ball and he kind of has a no memory when it comes to turnovers. I think he has to do that to win. I think he's a winner who wants to win, and the only way to do that is he's got to take chances because they're not put in a situation where he can be a conservative and still win games. Like when you think of Detroit, you always got to think of last-minute touchdowns. Guys, he has to either sling the ball or he's going to turn the ball over a lot. And I think with the right situation, I think Matt Stafford could be a very effective quarterback. And I think he's caliber enough on the right team that he can win Super Bowl. And I think Washington would benefit heavily from having a very, very good, very experienced signal caller under center like Matt Stafford. And I think we could have him for 5 years. Your window to win Super Bowl, 2 to 3 years. And you can, and if you win one, great. You get a Super Bowl out of him, maybe 2. I don't know, it's possible. And then, after you have to start paying guys, you don't have the money and you have to rebuild. He bridges the gap to your next quarterback. Okay, he bridges the gap while you draft the next guy that's going to be the guy in Washington. So that's not a bad option. I don't personally hate that option. If Matt Stafford was on Washington next year, I'd be tickled pink because I know we got a chance. We got a chance to win games. We got someone who can read defenses. He's going to take chances. He's going to sling the ball downfield. And I think with the offense we have, and as long as he's accepting coaching very well, I think we got ourselves a chance with him. Another one that I like a little bit less than Matt Stafford's Matt Ryan. I think Matt Ryan's technically a little bit of a better quarterback. I think he's more consistent. He turns the ball over a little bit less. The only problem I have with Matt is he's a little bit older. He'll be 36 starting next season. So you really have to go balls deep and all in to get to win with Matt Ryan. You really have to. You have to go balls deep, all in, to win with Matt Ryan. You have to put all your eggs in one basket. I want to get back. Matt Stafford, like I said, I already went over that. Never mind. The way you get Matt Stafford is apparently you got to trade 1 player, 2 draft picks, 3rd rounder, and they said a 2nd rounder the next year. I think you can probably do another 3rd or 4th. I think the Detroit Lions are just looking to move on from him and do a complete rebuild. So they'll take what they can get. Maybe someone offers something better, and in that case, it's a different discussion. But I think you can get him for a 3rd this year and a 4th next year. And the third we use this year isn't even going. We just give them our third, and we still have the 49ers third round pick they gave us for Trent Williams. So that's what I think we can do to get Matt Stafford. Now Matt Ryan, I think Matt Ryan is pretty much the same thing. The difference with Matt Ryan, though, like I said, Matt Ryan is going to require a little more all-in-ness, so to speak, from Washington to win now. Because Matt Ryan's older, he's only got about probably 3 years left of pretty good Matt Ryan before he's going to have a really, really steep decline. So you got to win the next 2 or 3 years, which is fine, but you really don't have anyone to gap between him and the next franchise quarterback. So that's the downside of Matt Ryan. It's probably about the same thing trade-wise. You're probably going to get something similar. You're going to get, a third this year, a fourth next year, maybe a player. You probably could probably do like a player and like a third and get him this year because he's so much older. You might be able to get away with a little bit less to get him. Of the two, I would pick Stafford. I think Stafford you got more years out of. I like him better. I think I've always liked him better than Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's good for fantasy, but he's not good for wins. I think Matt Stafford's done a lot more with less, and then Matt Ryan's done a lot less with more. Of the two of them, Matt Ryan, he's always had good receivers. He's had Julio Jones. He had Roddy White. He has Calvin Ridley. He's had a good tight end. He had Tony Gonzalez for years. He had I know there's some other receivers out there that are good. I can't think of them right now off the top of my head. Calvin Ridley, I said that. Austin Hooper last year was a really good tight end. So he's always had pretty decent receiving weapons around him. And for a while, he had a pretty decent defense. I mean, he had defensive-minded coach in Dan Quinn for years. But I think Stafford's just done more with less consistently. And Stafford's like never had a running game. Falcons have had running games. So that's an option, and I don't think it's a bad option. There's definitely things Washington could do better. I think we can do a lot better than Matt Ryan. But if the price is right and we get him dirt cheap, and he's only going to be here for a couple years, and we want to draft a guy in like next year, the year after, to sit behind him and learn, then he's the perfect guy, and we can go all in on the Super Bowl. I'm fine with that. The next option I want to go over is there's really two more options, but I want to go over one option before I go over the big option that I would put a lot of my eggs in that basket. I think this could happen, I really do, is Washington could go and get Sam Darnold. Now, I know a lot of people may be like sighing, like, oh, we don't want him. I think Sam Darnold's much better than he's been given credit for. He is on, you talk about Stafford being on a bad franchise, the Jets are worse than that. The Jets are a horrible franchise. Okay, they drafted a franchise quarterback 2 years ago in Sam Darnold, and then they gut all of his weapons. They gut Le'Veon Bell, they got Roddy White, they've retained no one. The best weapon he's had over the last 2 years has been Jameson Crowder. Okay? And his coach is horrible. The front office is bad. He doesn't even have a defense. But he's a baller, man. That guy plays. That guy was in a situation where, he's in a situation where he has nothing around him. He still plays good. And here's what's even better about him. He's a character guy. I think he has good character. There's times whenever he's had games where they literally put him in situations to fail, and he does not go to the press afterwards and blame the coaches or blame his teammates. He holds himself accountable, and I think that's a really good quality. And I think if you get that guy into a building where, it's going to matter and people are going to take that seriously and going to put you in situations to be successful, I think that's a million times better than a lot. And I don't think we have to trade much to get him. I think we can probably trade like a fourth rounder this year to get him. If we can trade a fourth rounder right now and get Sam Darnold, we have 3 years left on his contract. He has a 5-year deal. 3 years left on his contract, and we have 3 years where if he's good, great. We have a franchise quarterback. We sign him long term. If he sucks, great. We can move on from him very quickly. So it's not a situation where we're going to be stuck with him for a while. I think he's better than he's been advertised, and I think because the Jets have a second overall pick, they're going to either draft Zach Wilson or Justin Fields. Washington can come at him and get Sam Darnold for like a third or fourth round pick, and it's legitimately a good option at quarterback. I don't think it's as bad. Now, there's risk in that. That's the thing. There's a risk. And okay, I don't want to go to that one. I want to go to that one. Yeah, that's good. Okay, that's pretty much. I don't want to do that. I don't like Avengers that much. Okay, I'll just put it on. There we go. That's a good one. Okay, so that's an option that I think Washington should seriously consider. You bring him in and have him compete with Haskins and Kyle Allen, and he wins the starting job. We saw what Heineke can do. Taylor Heineke, not Haskins. I'm sorry, Taylor Heineke. Heineke and Kyle Allen, not Haskins. Haskins is not on our team anymore, thank goodness. So I think that would be a good option. And you wouldn't have to. You can basically keep building around him, around the offense, around the team this year. You could give him more weapons. You can beef up the offensive line, and you wouldn't have to go all in and spend a lot of money on a quarterback right now. He's not costing much. He's like $6 million. Imagine you get your franchise quarterback for like $6 million like a year for the next 3 years. That's insane. Okay, so it's just an option. I know it's not like there's a lot of risk in it because maybe Sam Darnold is what he's been showing. I don't know. I don't think it is. I really don't. Okay, I think he's in a really bad situation. I don't think any quarterback could go to that team and be successful. Okay, so and then the final option, which is probably the best option, but you have so much more to give up. Okay, the final option is Deshaun Watson. Okay, now there's some caveats with Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson, he has a no trade clause in his contract. So they have no way of trading him unless he says that I'm okay trading me to this team, this team, or this team, or this team. So, so that is kind of a thing that's going to hold up any kind of trade with Deshaun Watson for Deshaun Watson is the fact that he has a no trade clause. Anyone who looks to trade for Deshaun Watson is going to have to get approval from him to trade. God bless. I'm in traffic right now, and there's just a line of cars. I should have gone right there. Just a line of cars that I got to wait for. There we go. All right, so sorry. I was just trying to focus on making this left turn. So the last one is Deshaun Watson, obviously. Okay, so he has no trade clause, so he has to want to come to Washington. Deshaun Watson legitimately gives you the best chance to win now, and he's your best chance to win in the future, period. Okay? Right now, the reason why we're in a win now mode is we have a lot of our defensive linemen still on rookie contracts. Okay? Chase Young, we got him for 4 more years. We got Montez Sweat for 3 more years. I think Jerron Payne we have for 2 more years before we have to hit that contract. Jonathan Allen, I think, has 1 more year before we have to pay him. And we have that's pretty much it. And then we have some other guys filtered in there. But that's why it's like pretty much an all-in kind of thing where we want to make sure we want to try to go all in now. It's because before we have to start paying those guys are going to be worth like $12 to $15 million a year each. Right now they're not. Once we do that, we're not going to have cap space to do anything else. Okay, we're going to be strapped for cash, cap space. Not to mention Terry McLaurin. You have Antonio Gibson. If he pans out to be something we want to go for in the future, I personally think running backs are a dime a dozen, but I'm not going to worry about that. But I would definitely stick with McLaurin. So you have a lot of guys that are young, and you got to win. The goal is to win now while they're young, and then eventually they're going to have to pay them all, and then the rest of the team gets skeletoned or gets gutted because you don't have the cap space to pay everyone else. So that's the situation right. That's why we're in a win now kind of mode. I'll leave it on that. That's why we're kind of in a win now mode is because the way it's set up is Washington has 1 or 2 more years of guys on the roster. I actually think you should trade Jonathan Allen. And I'll get off on this for 2 seconds. Jonathan Allen, he hasn't been a bad player by any stretch. Okay? Jonathan Allen is actually a defensive end playing defensive tackle. I think he's undersized at defensive tackle. He does really well because he's so talented, but he would be better at defensive end. And I think we have too many interior defensive linemen with Matt Ioannidis. I think Matt Ioannidis is way better because he's way stronger than Jonathan Allen. He's way bigger. But Jonathan Allen's good, don't get me wrong, but I think the better option of the two is Ioannidis. And we have him contracted for years. Allen, we don't. And we're going to have to pay him, but I think he has some trade value, and I think we can get something for him, draft picks or something like that. I think that's a possibility if Matt Ioannidis comes back healthy next year. And we have drafted guys. Tim Settle's still in there. I think we have other guys. We can still play Ryan Kerrigan and maybe play. There's things we can do with defensive linemen. We have options. So I think options is something we need to consider our options with that. But, I mean, if we sign Jonathan Allen and extend him, I'm fine with that. But I don't want to lose out on not being able to sign Sweat or Chase Young or Deron Payne. I don't want to miss out on that. But sorry, I'm off topic now. I want to get back to it. Deshaun Watson is the best option. In the next 2 or 3 years, if that's your window to win a Super Bowl, your best option is to go with him. He is a bona fide best option you can go with. Now, the only downside is what you're going to trade. Okay, you're going to trade, 2 first-rounders, maybe a second and a third. If you win a Super Bowl the next 3 years, it was totally worth it. But the thing is, as well, is if you keep him paid after the next 3 years, I'm ignoring that. If you keep him paid at the next 3 years, you don't have to worry about him. You have a quarterback. You have it set. You can have him for the next 15 years. That's the difference. That's the thing about Deshaun Watson is unlike all the other options I provide, except for Sam Darnold. I guess Sam Darnold would be one that's in this mix too, but he's a lot more risky because you don't know what you're getting. Deshaun Watson is giving no indication at all that he's could potentially be a bust. He's been good the second he stepped in on an NFL field. Okay, Deshaun Watson is putting up 4,000 passing yards a season, 30-plus touchdowns, not a lot of interceptions, and he runs the ball for about 3 to 4 touchdowns a year, okay, with about 6 fumbles every year. That's not bad. He's having about 13 turnovers to 35 touchdowns is about what he's getting at. And he's mobile. He's good. The problem, this year, he had over 4,000 passing. He led league in passing, and he had no weapons. Will Fuller was out. You had Brandon Cooks was injured. They got rid of his best weapon. And he had no tight ends from the third to at all, and he still put up 4,000 passing yards. It's insane how good he is. He would be a franchise quarterback for the next 15 years. And that's why, it depends on what they're asking for. Honestly, the Houston Texans have no leverage. Okay? They have zero leverage when it comes to him. He could legit, say he only wants to play with Washington, and Washington can live in 3 things, and they either keep a quarterback that's not going to play for them, or they take the minimal trade that you're going to get, and they're going to have to just suck it up and take it. Because they have no leverage. He has a no trade clause in his contract, so he has to decide, I want to go here, make it happen. If you don't get this done, I'm not playing for you. He literally has all the leverage. Washington has a lot of the leverage. Houston has zero leverage. So that is the best option. You will be good. We will be okay for. Let's say what happens 3 years. Let's say we get a Super Bowl in 2 years. Not maybe this coming season, but not the following one. Okay. And we have to pay all of our big linemen. We lose a lot of our talent around him. Listen, we have 1 year, we have a down year. Okay? And then we start drafting guys again. We start building back up. We literally go from contender to maybe winning the division, making the playoffs, and being out in the first or second round to back to a contender very quickly because we have Deshaun Watson under center on our team. So that's why he is the best option. Okay? Yeah, that's not bad. So that is why he is our best option. Is no matter what you give up, we can give him all of our picks this year. We are immediately a contender in the NFL. Not to mention, we have a lot of cap space. Unlike every other team. I was talking to someone about this today, and I'm pretty confident in this. I did not double check this, but I'm pretty confident because I heard it from another YouTuber that Miami doesn't have the cap space Washington does. So they accumulate Deshaun Watson, they still have a lot of money left over to add talent around him. Dolphins don't have that. So Dolphins got to rely heavily on the draft, but they're going to have to gut their draft picks just to get him on the team. Let's see if there's another one. Who's that? Josh Norman? Ugh, garbage. There we go. That's a good one. So that's... To sum it up, Deshaun Watson is the best option. He's also the best option for the next scenario I'm going to go over, which is drafting. Because here's why. Let's just, hypothetically, let's say Washington right now, we can give our next this first rounder next year, and like next year's second, and then the following year's third and fourth. Let's hypothetically say that Washington could do that, and they could trade up and get Trevor Lawrence. Would you rather give all those picks and get Trevor Lawrence, or would you rather get all those picks and get Deshaun Watson? I would rather take Deshaun Watson, if I'm being bluntly honest. We know what Deshaun Watson is. We've seen him in the pros. For all we know, Trevor Lawrence is the next, Ryan Leaf, or Jamarcus Russell, or Dwayne Haskins. We don't know that. I don't think he will be, but you don't know that. Deshaun Watson is the for sure thing. So if you're going to give up, you're going to like bet the house, go for him. There's only one quarterback drafting wise I would actually go for more, because I think he's better than Trevor Lawrence, but I'll get to that here in a little bit. But to sum up, I think to sum up that part, trading wise, I think Deshaun Watson is the best option. I think all three options are good. Don't get me wrong, but I think Matt Ryan is the worst option. I think the second best option, honestly, is Stafford, and the third best option. And there's like an inch of space between all three of these options. I mean, Deshaun Watson is obviously the best option. But then you have a mile of distance between that and the second option. The second option is Stafford, and you have like a centimeter of difference between that and Sam Darnold. And I think then you have another mile, and then another like football field, and you have Matt Ryan, which Matt Ryan's still not a bad option. So now I'm going to go into the draft pick options. Okay, Washington has there's 4 quarterbacks mainly in the draft that I think Washington would be better getting. I think they would legit make him better. And there's some quarterbacks that people think we should get second round. I'm going to go over them briefly. I don't think for a second any of them in the second round are any good. Okay, so this is my personal opinion here. I still don't think any in the second round are going to be enough to get us over the hump. But the first option obviously is Trevor Lawrence, but he's going to get drafted by Jacksonville. He's going to get drafted by Jacksonville. Unless Jacksonville surprises everyone and they go with Justin Fields or maybe even Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence should go first overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay? Good quarterback. He can do everything, make every throw. He's mobile. He can do everything. He's a good player. He should go first overall. He is definitely that caliber of talent. Like I said, though, if I had to trade up to get him, or I have to trade to get Watson, I'd rather trade to get Watson for the reason I just said. Fields, he'll go early. I think he's not as good as people say. I mean, I've watched him a couple times. I think the thing about Ohio State is a lot of Ohio State quarterbacks get their numbers boosted and their abilities boosted because Ohio State always has good, talented players around them. That's like same thing with Alabama. There's an Alabama quarterback that's in this draft that people are like, got a hard on for. And I'm gonna be honest with you, there's not a good reason that he's not as good a quarterback as you think. He's just surrounded by 3 first-round receivers. There's 3 legitimate receivers coming out of Alabama that will go in the first round, or 2 at least first round and 1 early second. Like it's loaded, and it's not the fact that he's such a good quarterback. It's the fact that he's got such great weapons. It makes his job very easy. And that's just me being bluntly honest. I mean, you have the first Heisman receiver to win the Heisman in years is on that team for a reason. And he's not good because his quarterback's great. He's good because it's good. You get it close to him, he's going to catch it. And then he's good at yards at the catch and so on and so forth. Then you have other talent around him. And so you can't double team him because there's so many good players. It's just a lot of things snowball into making them a very effective quarterback. Get a different one. Nope. There we go. I'm going to go back. I just don't want my screen. Here's what happens a lot. I film a lot of these, and my screen times out, and then it stops recording, and I'm not paying attention because I'm talking. Because I'm actually driving, and I'm looking at I'm not looking at my phone. I'm looking at the road and just talking. So I sound like a crazy person because I'm driving and talking at the same time, but I'm actually just filming this. So I think Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields will go early. I don't like Justin Fields. If we're going to have one of those two, I'd rather have Trevor Lawrence. But I don't think either one will be available to Washington, and I think we have to go way too much to go get them. And I don't think for a second that we should, if we're going to trade that much, like I said, go get Watson. Now, one that I would consider, because I'm sold on his abilities, I'm sold on his talents, and that is Zach Wilson. I think Zach Wilson is the best option in this draft at quarterback. He can do everything. He has a solid arm. He has a good arm. He is very accurate with the ball. He can run. He can throw. He's got a cannon. He is just a gamer and a baller. And I think you could bring in Zach Wilson. You could play Taylor Heineke for a year, and Zach Wilson be ready and good to go by 2022. I think that would. He might even be good to go by the end of 2021 if we make the playoffs and he's available, or if we don't make the playoffs and he can play the last few games, get himself some experience. That kid is going to ball out, and he's going to be good for Washington. You mark my words. That guy will be good. But Washington, again, there are teams ahead of Washington that look like they're going to draft him, and I think we'd have to give up way too much to trade up for him. But if somehow, let's say he has a bad combine or something, or somebody tests bad, and he falls to Washington, we can get him at 19, I would be tickled freaking pink if we can get him, because I think he's the best quarterback prospect in this draft by far. I think he is the next Patrick Mahomes, and I said it, but he has to go to the right place. He has to go to the right place with good talent. That's why the Chiefs, Matt Mahomes did well. If Mahomes would have gone first in that draft, he'd have gone to a crappy team, and he wouldn't be what he is. He went to a team that was already a contender, a good coach, had a stable quarterback so he can sit and learn for a year, and he wasn't thrown to the wolves. That is one of the reasons. And Matt Holmes is talented enough. He gets a lot of credit for that, but Andy Reid gets credit for having the wherewithal to draft a young player, bring him in, and make sure he is good to go when it comes to he's got all of his stuff figured out before he puts him in the game. So I think that's one of the reasons why Patrick Mahomes has been very successful. And if any player that gets drafted later in the later rounds, it later picks, you're going to fall to better teams. That's just the way it is. So I think that's the best option. There's another option out there that I personally don't. I think it's a bust waiting to happen. It's my personal opinion here. You don't have to like it. Some people think this guy, they're sold on this guy, heavily sold on this guy. But Trey Lance is the other option. Okay? Trey Lance, he's got a good arm. I've watched him play a couple games. He's got a good arm. He's very fast. But he's not extremely accurate. Okay? He's not. He's also playing against lower caliber talent. Okay? He's playing against Division II teams. So if you're a Division I talent, you're playing against Division II, you're going to look very good. I'm just going to be honest with you. You're gonna be inflated a little bit. Your stats and your abilities are going to be heavily inflated a little bit because of the lack of talent you're playing against. Okay? Like, the fastest corner is not going to catch Trey Lance in Division II. So that's all there is to it. And that's just where we're at. I think someone will reach for him, and I may be way wrong about him, but I feel I have like another Dwayne Haskins feeling about him. I feel like he has all the intangibles, he has all these things, and then he comes in and it's just not going to be good enough. He didn't play this year. I think we needed more game film on him. I don't think he has enough experience. If Trey Lance is good and then we draft him, great. I'm not going to be upset if we draft him and he's good. But if we reach for him and draft him and he sucks, it's just the same old, same old. Okay, and my thing is, if we're going to reach for someone, Zach Wilson has proven that he is a significantly better quarterback than Trey Lance to me. He's played better competition. He's played more consistent. He actually played this year, so we have a lot more game film on him. I think he's just a better quarterback. So of those three, I would like Zach Wilson. I think the most likely scenario is Trey Lance will fall to us, or he gets we trade up in a spot where we don't have to give up a lot to get him. I think that's what's going to happen. We're going to have a lot of that's the situation we're going to have. I think we're going to either trade up and get like Wilson, or Trey Lance will fall to us, or he'll fall to like 12 or 13, and Washington will trade up and try to get him. if that's who they're sold on. I don't think they're going to be sold on him. I think Ron wants to go with another mobile quarterback. I think he wants to go with someone he knows can be a traditional quarterback and throw the ball and do mobility if needed. But I don't think that he wants a quarterback that seems to be his first MO. So we'll see. I mean, we'll 100% see how that plays out, how Ron decides that he wants to do it. And then the last two options that are out there is Mack Jones from Alabama, which I hate that option so freaking much. He is so overrated. Oh my God, he is legitimately overrated. He's all of his numbers, all of his abilities, everything about him is overinflated because of the fact he played for Alabama. He has the best offensive line. He has the best receiving core in the nation. Good tight ends, good running game, good coach, good everything, good defense that never put him in a bad spot. So I don't think for a second he's got. I think he can make throws. I think he can do the job as a quarterback. I think he's like a career starter or like stopgap quarterback, kind of like Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think he could do that, but I don't think he's good enough to consistently be. I just don't think he's good enough. Okay, I don't think he's good enough to consistently be a starting quarterback and win with one. And the biggest thing about this as well is Washington. Like I said, we're in a win now mode. We needed someone that can push us over the edge now. I think if you had Trevor Lawrence or maybe even Justin Fields, you have a possibility that they could put you over the edge. Zach Wilson, I absolutely think he can put you over the edge. Don't know if Trey Lance is that. I haven't seen him. I don't know enough about him. I think, like I said, I have a gut feeling on this. I have the same gut feeling I have with Drew Lock, and he doesn't seem to be panning out very well. They talk about intangibles and leadership and all these things, and then they're not talking about his play. You're not looking at his stats saying, okay, this guy should have way better stats, way better touchdowns, so on and so forth. So that's really the QB options that I have. And one other one is I think his name's Kyle Trask or something like that. Kyle Trask, he played for Florida. And I guess he's not bad, but I just don't see him as a viable option. Like I said, the best option Washington can go with is to trade for Deshaun Watson. The second best option, I think personally, is to go the trade. It's a little less than the Deshaun Watson trade for Zach Wilson. He'll be your quarterback for the next 20 years. Okay, so those are your two best options because you have long-term longevity. I guess Trey Lance might be your third option. I think is actually Sam Darnold. Trey Lance is your fourth option. Matt Stafford is. I think you can probably actually get Matt Stafford and draft Trey Lance. That's the thing about Matt Stafford option. If you get Matt Stafford, you can get Matt Stafford and trade for Trey Lance, and draft Trey Lance. If you trade for, let me rephrase this. If you trade for Matt Stafford, you can still draft Trey Lance and let him develop. Okay. And if you trade for Matt Ryan, you can do the same thing. So you have, like I said, you have a lot of options with that. And then, like I said, your lesser options is to go the free agent route, which I don't like as much. I do think Sam Darnold is a route we shouldn't ignore. I think it's definitely a good possibility. But basically, that's my video. I just want to go over all the options Washington has at quarterback. And we can obviously just, if we don't want to do anything at quarterback, nothing at all. Let's say we don't want to do anything. We could still go with Taylor Heineke. We can go with Taylor Heineke for this season with Kyle Allen as a backup and see what we have in that. And hopefully Alex Smith, I love him, but I want him to retire. He can't push off his back foot. There's no point in having him on our roster anymore. He can't play. Hire him on as a QB coach. I think he can do very well as a QB coach. That is the best options I can say when it comes to Washington. Like I said, Taylor Heineke doesn't seem like to be the worst option either because of his ability. His ability to play, his ability to get it done, he's a gunslinger. The only thing I'd say about Taylor Heineke, he seems like he's injury prone. He got injured in our game. He separated his shoulder. Apparently, he played a couple years ago for Carolina. He got injured there. So there's a lot of things about him that are not the greatest things. But if he can come out and give us a handful of games where he can go out there and play like he played in the playoffs this year, I think we win those games. He gives us a good chance to win. So if we want to just go that route, or we want to draft someone and have him sit behind Taylor Heineke for a year, we have a lot of options. That's the one thing Washington had for years, is options. And we have options because we can finally get Alex Smith's money or cost off our books, so on and so forth. So that's my video. It's been 45 minutes. I appreciate everyone listening. If you listen this far, thank you. Give a like button, or hit that like button, or subscribe. And obviously follow me on Twitter as well. It's Redskins Ranter, or Redskins Rant, on Twitter. Thanks for watching, and hail to the Redskins. See ya.